Hello and welcome to a friendly chat. I got to admit that I didn't have any real plans on what I wanted to talk about next, and it's funny how just things happen and sort of herd you in a sort of direction. One of the framed pictures that I have on the wall behind the computer here, it's a really large Hunt for October poster, and the other day it came off the wall, pulled off the actual hooks and went crashing to the ground. Luckily, the frame stayed intact and the glass didn't shatter because it's really good quality. But it put a big ding in the wall next to me. And so while I was rearranging the posters in my room to deal with that, I was like wondering, what am I going to do with this big hole in the wall? It's not really big, but it is a hole in the wall, and at the time I don't really have the materials to fix it. So I got this small poster and just put it on there to cover it up, which is next to the Tombstone poster beside me. And the movie I chose was one that I really like, but it's probably considered not necessarily unknown, but very innocuous. But it's one movie that actually, when I saw it, it really resonated with me, and it actually became part of my top 50 favorite films. And that movie is 1987's Bestseller. Now, as I said, the title alone, people would probably think, what the heck's that? I haven't seen it, never heard of it. And honestly, if I was walking through the video store back in 1988 or beyond that and saw it, I'd go, oh yeah, Brian Dennehy, I remember him from FX. Don't know who James Woods is. Bestseller, sounds like a book. I'm going to keep on moving. And that's I think probably a lot of people may have done that, which is a real shame because it ended up being an exceptionally good thriller, in my opinion anyway. So I would like to talk about 1987's Bestseller, starring James Woods and Brian Dennehy. So join me, if you will.
And now the news. Don't touch that dial.
So one of the things that is not a huge secret about me is I went to boarding school from grade 8 through grade 12. And one of the things that they would do to try to keep us entertained on weekends was they would rent movies for each of the dorms. And it was pretty good. It wasn't like we had a choice. One of the dorm masters would go up to the local video store. He'd rent a whole bunch of movies and just dish them out. And that was kind of cool. You get to watch them a few times because not everyone would be in the TV room at the same time. Sometimes people would come in, and sometimes people would go, "Oh, it's already started. I'm not going to go halfway through a movie," and then they'd wait till another time and watch it again. It'd be watched again, and a whole bunch of other people would get to see it. And it was kind of neat because each of the dorms had movies rented for them, so they'd someone would get volunteered to go around to the other dorms when we were done with watching it, and they'd swap it with another movie. Later, a couple of years later, they would basically use one of the halls, and they'd project. They use the projector, and we'd watch it on a big screen. You just take your pillow down, lie on the floor, and watch whatever movies they chose. Got to see a lot of decent films and some very terrible ones as well. But grade 8, one of the movies that we had one weekend was Bestseller, and it was one good thing about video stores back in the day. They would put on the cover like a sticker that would have the genre. So fortunately I had thriller because you looked at it and went, this is about an author. So I read the back cover and went, this essentially sounds pretty good. So in the broader strokes, Bestseller is about a police officer named Dennis Meacham, played by Brian Dennehy. And one day he's down at the police evidence impound, depositing some, obviously evidence, and talking to some of the other police officers down there, and a group come in fully armed to the teeth and basically take the cops hostage and go into one of the evidence cages and come out with a big box of something. And so Brian Dennehy, he's a uniform cop at the time, he's not a detective, but he sort of starts going, oh, how, you guys are well informed, how do you know? And one of these guys just like completely just drops the name of one of the other cops, saying, oh yeah, no, he's our guy. And so the cop's like, now he's, exposed, so he's going, son of a bitch, you got to let me go with you. And then they just kill him. And one of the other cops starts having a heart attack, and so they kill him as well. And Brian Dennehy's not going to take it lying down because he's a big bear of a man. So I think he grabs a letter opener and stabs the shooter in the guts, and he gets shot for his efforts. But he doesn't die. He's in hospital for a few weeks, I think, and he's in a coma, and then wakes up. And I think to help him deal with what he went through, he writes a book and about what had happened, and it's called Inside Man or Inside Job. I can't remember what it's actually called, but it's a non-fiction story about the raid on the police evidence depot, and it becomes a bestseller. And but he goes from being like this non-fiction crime writer to a novelist, and starts writing just standard sort of paperbacks. And he's pretty good at it, and but yeah, he's sort of at the moment having trouble sort of getting through his latest manuscript, and I believe he's a bit late on that. He also doesn't give up being a police officer. He's become, I believe, a detective in the later years, and so he's back on the job. He's doing chasing down a suspect. They're down at the docks. There's like warehouses everywhere and stuff, and so he's chasing this guy down, and runs into this other guy in dark suit and sunglasses, and sort of nearly shoots him, mistakes him as someone like a threat. And he goes, "You got to get out of here. I'm a cop. You can't be around here. You nearly got shot." And so he takes off in the direction of the suspect. But this guy starts following him, sort of running after him, and nearly comes to blows again. And the suspect gets the drop on Meacham, and the stranger shoots the guy and just flat out kills him. So Meacham's happy to still be alive, but angry that this guy just murdered a dude in front of him, and doesn't know where he went, because the guy just vanishes like Batman. And a few days later, this guy appears again, and Meacham's angry, grabs him. He's going, "You killed the guy," and he goes, "Yes, I did, and I saved your life." But he says, "I want you to write a book." And he goes, "Well, I'm writing a book." And he says, No, I want you to write a book. It's going to be about me and the man I worked for." And he goes, "Who cares?" And he goes, "No, it's going to be non-fiction." And he goes, and over the period of this conversation and the next few days to weeks, you find out that this man, who's named Cleve, is an assassin who helped build a corporation through murder and corruption and threats, and it's a really interesting plot, because it's one of those things that Cleve's character is very, very cavalier. It's not that he's very cocky, but he can back it up. So it's not like he's arrogant, but he also just doesn't seem to have any care for what happens to him specifically. And it's not like he has a death wish or anything like that. It's just he really wants to get his former boss screwed over, because he was basically let go, and he believes he's owed this. So it's an interesting tale of revenge as well as death and murder, and it's just brilliantly acted. James Woods as Cleve, Brian Dennehy as Dennis Meacham, two rock solid performances. I mean, they always bring in solid performances. Neither of them ever shy away from a decent performance. It was the first time I ever saw James Woods in a movie that I can think of, and he was one of those actors that you gravitate towards. And it's mainly his eyes. He's very thin. He's got a very angular face, but his eyes are really serious. And there are times where he's got like a smile on his face, but the way he's looking at you, he's trying to stop your heart with his mind, and it's so intense. It's really, really good. And even when he's got his sunglasses on, you can't see his eyes, but you know that's exactly what he's doing. The way he's staring at you, it's really, really great. It's brilliantly done. As I said, really solid performances, great concept. It's a very small film, and by that I mean that the plot doesn't hinge on the fate of the city or the fate of the world or anything like that. It's just these two men and a few people, around Dennis Meacham, that are. It's a very small cast, really. So there's a lot of sort of extras, but basically, aside from Brian Dennehy and as Dennis and James Woods as Cleve, you have Victoria Tennant as Roberta Gillian, who is Dennis's manager slash editor. Dennis has a daughter played by Alison Bolson, and Cleve's former employer as Paul Shinar, and he plays David Madlock, which just sounds like a villain. But yeah, aside from that, everyone else is just like a minor character and doesn't really is really that important to the plot. They're just there. And yeah, it's as I said, really, really solid performance. It was written by Larry Cohen, who has written a bunch of stuff really over the years. Unfortunately, he died in 2019 at the age of 82. But heading back down, I'll not read everything he's written, because he's written a lot of stuff. But I was going through his list of his back catalogue of stuff he's written for. And I mean, he's done some TV stuff like episodes of Columbo and things like that. But he wrote, this one got me a laugh, Cue the Winged Serpent, which I do really recommend if you haven't seen it. It's so good. That's a really good C grade sort of horror monster movie. He wrote The Stuff, which is a great horror film. He wrote Maniac Cop. He wrote the what else have we got in here? Oh, The Expert with Jeff Speakman. I did go through a Jeff Speakman stage in the early 90s. It was yeah, he was just one of those martial artists that's going, oh, Kempo karate seems really cool. And it is, especially when you got someone as good as him doing it. Phone Booth, really solid thriller with Colin Farrell and Kiefer Sutherland. Really good movie. Cellular, another good thriller with I'm trying to remember who was in that. That was Kim Basinger and Chris Evans. I do recommend that film too if you haven't seen that. Really good thriller. He's written some decent thrillers. So yeah, that was written by Larry Cohen and directed by John Flynn, who is responsible for a bunch of movies, but the ones that people will probably know off the top of my head anyway. He directed Lock Up with Stallone, which is pretty damn good. Steven Seagal's Out for Justice, and Brain Scan, which is a horror sort of movie, which has Edward Furlong and the great character actor Frank Langella. But it's not bad. It's a bit silly, but yeah. So yeah, it's, as I said, smallish cast, small movie, but just a solid plot, because there just does seem to be a lot that hinges on this book getting written, and it's important to, not just important to Cleve to get revenge, but it's like the it does seem like as Cleve and Dennis sort of start to bond a bit, that that the truth does need to come out. And so yeah, so 1987's Bestseller. I really recommend this movie, and it's one that, as it said, it gravitated to me at, young age. I was like 13, and I always liked a decent thriller, but I think everything just fell into place for this movie. Because, as I said, it's not a huge plot. It's I think if they tried to make it like a massive plot, like if this book doesn't get written, the city will fall. It's just too much. The stakes are too high, and it just doesn't make any sense. But it's just big enough that that everything does sort of fit nicely into the as it ratchets itself up and gets more involved. So yes, Bestseller. It ended up in my top 50 favorite movies, and I have talked about this in the past, but not to this level of detail. But in the comments below, yeah, have you seen this movie? Have you even heard of it? Is it one of those ones that you saw in the video store back in the day and went, the title doesn't grab me? Yeah, and if you have seen it, what are your thoughts? Do you think it lives up to being a decent thriller, or you just, it's all right? But yeah, I would like to know. And yeah, it's one of those things. Like, lately, I've been taking advice of people recommending movies that I haven't seen that I should have seen, apparently. And some of them have been, really good, and some of them have not. But I'm always willing to listen to people. So yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, I do have a pretty decent catalogue of movies in my head that I've seen over the years, but I'm always willing to listen to people. What is something that you have seen that just hit you at the right time, where you just went, I really like this, and is not necessarily well known, but probably should be more well known than it currently is? Something, that's underappreciated, and in the chat, in the comments at least, let me know. Because if it's something I haven't seen, I'll definitely check it out. I will put the trailer for Bestseller in the description, so you can check it out. So you can go, oh, okay, he didn't really articulate that well enough. I hope I did. I really do. And I hope I didn't really give too much away, because there's a lot happening in that movie. So yes, with that, I shall leave you. But if you like this sort of content and would like to hear more about me rambling on about movies that I have enjoyed, or would like to know what else is in Tony's top 50, or his top 100, or I actually managed to work out probably up to 150, but I won't bore you with those levels of details. But yeah, if there are other movies you'd like to hear me talk about, or off that list, which is in my head at the moment, yeah, let me know and I will. But yes, as usual, like, subscribe, click the bell, all of that fun stuff. It's something that in my previous channel I never really asked for, but everyone yells at me to do it. So yes, if you like this, I will continue making more. I will alternate between this and other things, but there seems to be more people interested in movie-related stuff than comic-related stuff at the moment, so I'm sort of probably going to do more of that than the comic stuff. And I mean, a lot of the stuff on that has been uploaded has been old content from about a year or so ago, so I am trying to get in more of a frame of mind to build up more new content. So yes, but yeah, I will talk about other movies that are on my list that I have in the physical media section in the up and coming weeks and months. So with that, as I say, you know, keep on watching, keep on reading, keep on listening, keep on playing and gaming. Because there is a lot of good stuff out there, and keep yourselves entertained. So until next time, bye-bye.
More updates. Damn the man! Save the Empire!